Hey Brett, it's Chuck again. I think this is just going to be a pretty quick response. Basically the gist of your video from what I got is you basically you feel kind of like, oh, by the way, I wanted to say, while I have enjoyed the irony of playing devil's advocate and defending this position of God against atheists, you're probably right, and I think the conversation is kind of naturally evolving in the other direction anyway. So, but yeah, and I wanted to say, I think the gist of what your video was saying is that God could do whatever he wanted to. It's just not in his nature. Which I guess it makes more sense. What the definition that you gave. That makes more sense now to me. It doesn't seem quite as outlandish, although it still seems sort of like it just is because it is. It's kind of like I don't know, the way that I feel about it is it's like somebody says I just believe this way because the Bible says so, and that's it. Or I just believe this way because I have faith, and that's it. And that's fine, but I can't really argue with that. There's no real basis to argue. I mean, I could argue on the validity of certain aspects of the Bible. You can't really argue with faith. But yeah, that's kind of how I felt about your last argument. There is one thing that I wanted to discuss though. When you broke down the word, however you define it, the word omnipotent basically has two parts. There's the all part and there's the powerful part. Whether you want to define it in. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that. That was the train. Yeah, so basically I was saying, whether you want to describe it, or define it, rather, whatever language you want to use, whether it's Greek or English or Latin or whatever, the word basically breaks down into two parts. There's the all part and the powerful part. I thought it was kind of interesting that you went after the powerful part. I don't have a problem with the powerful part. I think God, and actually I think the omnipotence paradox doesn't really tackle the powerful part. The powerful part, you can have a God that's powerful, but not omnipotent. You can't have a God that's all-powerful. That's the definition of what omnipotence is. I thought it was kind of interesting that you attacked the powerful part rather than the all part. But basically, that's the real problem that I have with the omnipotence of the Christian God. Is the idea that he is all powerful. Now you define all as in his kingdom, which would be the universe. And you make the analogy of it's like if you rule over everything, it's like how could you create something that rules over you? And you actually could. You very well could. Think about the idea of a king. A king if he truly wanted to, he could crown a successor that was more powerful than him. If he wanted to, you know, let's say his son. Let's say his son happens to be more intelligent, more everything. You know, he got a better education. He got better training, so he's he's a better warrior or whatever. You know, kingdoms, you tend to think of like you know, old-fashioned kingdom style, and it was just sort of like almost an extension of the tribal lifestyle back in Europe. But I mean, you know, he could, you know, in essence, he's basically creating someone who is more powerful than him, and by crowning that person his successor, he's essentially created someone that has rule over him. So so it's not an illogical argument. Now I think the point that you're really trying to get at is, why would somebody do that? I mean, obviously for a mortal king, it's obvious, because, you know, he grows old, he gets feeble, you know, he needs somebody as a successor. I think the real reason that this doesn't work for the Christian God is because the Christian God, he could do it, but he doesn't want to. And I think that's the problem. That's the main problem that I have with the Christian God. Is there's so much stuff that he could do, good or bad, that he just doesn't want to. And I think it's sort of, it's a little too convenient, I think. It reminds me of when I was in high school. I took a psychology class, and we learned about addiction. And people with addictions tend to say, you know, oh, I'm not an alcoholic. I can stop whenever I want to. I just don't want to. Or they say, you know, I'm not a drug addict. I can stop whenever I want to. I just don't want to. You know, any kind of addiction. That's what people say. And I think it's, I mean, not to equate, you know, God's omnipotence to an addiction, or rather lack thereof. But I just think it's kind of, to me, it's suspect. It doesn't add up rationally. And that's basically all I want to say. We can continue this if you'd like. Or if you don't want to, it doesn't matter to me either way. But it was a cool talk. Hope to hear from you again, and adios.